The screen fades in from black, revealing a dimly lit street in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. The air is thick with the scent of dust and uncertainty. A lone figure walks briskly through the narrow alleyways, his silhouette blending into the shadows. Cast by flickering streetlights, he wears no badge of authority, no insignia of power, just a simple shirt and trousers that speak of humility rather than hierarchy. His steps are deliberate but unassuming, as if he carries a secret too heavy for words. The camera lingers on his face, weathered yet calm, as if it holds stories untold. The narrator's voice begins deep and resonant, like an echo from history itself. In a world quick to judge by appearances, some truths remain hidden beneath layers of silence. This man, walking among the forgotten streets of his homeland, was not seen for who he truly was. To those who passed him by, he was just another face in the crowd, a stranger, perhaps even insignificant. The tone shifts slightly, hinting at something greater lurking beneath the surface. But sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest messages. As the scene unfolds, we see glimpses of life around him. Children playing near makeshift stalls, elders sitting quietly under trees, their eyes filled with both hope and weariness. Yet none pay attention to this solitary walker. They do not know what lies ahead, for them or for him. The tension builds subtly. The audience senses there is more to this moment than meets the eye. Who is this man? Why does he walk alone? And why does the weight of destiny seem to follow him wherever he goes? The final shot of this sequence captures him pausing briefly at a crossroads, looking up at the sky as though seeking guidance, or perhaps answers. The narrator concludes, "History has taught us that greatness often arrives unnoticed, cloaked in simplicity. But when the truth emerges, it shakes the very foundations of arrogance and ignorance. Tonight, someone will learn this lesson the hard way." The screen fades to black, leaving only the sound of distant footsteps fading into silence. The scene transitions to a bustling marketplace, alive with the hum of voices and the clatter of daily life. Vendors shout their wares, children dart between stalls, and the sun casts long shadows across the dusty ground. Amidst this chaos, the protagonist enters, a quiet presence in a sea of noise. He stops at a small fruit stand, exchanging pleasantries with the vendor in a warm yet reserved manner. It is here that we are introduced to the secondary character, a wealthy businessman draped in expensive attire, his demeanor oozing arrogance. The businessman pushes through the crowd, impatient and dismissive, as if the world exists only to serve him. His eyes lock onto the protagonist, who stands calmly by the fruit stand. Sensing an opportunity to assert dominance, the businessman sneers, "Out of my way, peasant. Some of us have important places to be." The camera lingers on the protagonist's face. He does not flinch, nor does he retaliate. Instead, there is a flicker of sadness in his eyes, as though he has seen this kind of behavior before and knows its roots all too well. Tension builds as the businessman continues his tirade, mocking the simplicity of the protagonist's clothing, and questioning why someone like him would dare occupy space meant for people of importance. The surrounding crowd falls silent, their discomfort palpable. One vendor whispers to another, "Who does he think he is?" Yet no one dares intervene. The businessman's words cut deeper, fueled by a sense of entitlement that blinds him to the humanity of those around him. "You people always hold everyone back," he spits out, his voice dripping with disdain. The moment freezes. The weight of his words hangs heavy in the air. The protagonist remains still, his expression unreadable. But something shifts in his gaze. It hardens ever so slightly, hinting at the storm beneath the calm surface. The narrator's voice returns, soft but firm. In every society, there are those who believe power grants them permission to dehumanize others. What they fail to understand is that true strength lies not in domination, but in dignity. And dignity cannot be taken, only surrendered. The camera zooms out, capturing the stark contrast between the two men, one consumed by arrogance, the other cloaked in quiet resolve. The marketplace falls eerily silent as the businessman's final insult hangs in the air. The protagonist, still standing motionless, seems unfazed by the verbal assault, but before he can respond, or perhaps choose not to, the distant rumble of engines breaks the tension. Heads turn as a convoy of military vehicles rolls into view, their polished frames glinting under the harsh African sun. Soldiers step out, their uniforms immaculate, their movements precise and disciplined. The crowd parts instinctively, creating a path for the unexpected arrival. One of the officers approaches the protagonist, saluting crisply before addressing him with unmistakable respect. "Mr. President," he says, his voice carrying both authority and deference, "your security detail awaits." Time freezes. Gasps ripple through the crowd as they realize the man who had just been humiliated is none other than Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso. The businessman's face contorts. In shock, his bravado crumbling like sandcastles against the tide. His mouth opens and closes, searching for words that will never come. The camera captures every nuance of the moment, the widening eyes of onlookers, the trembling hands of the businessman, and the unwavering composure of the protagonist. He turns slowly to face the man who moments ago sought to belittle him. There is no anger in his gaze, only a profound sense of understanding. The narrator speaks again, their tone measured but powerful. When truth reveals itself, it leaves no room for lies. And when humility meets arrogance, the latter is always exposed for what it truly is, fragile, hollow, and devoid of substance. The scene shifts slightly as the soldiers form a protective circle around the president, guiding him toward the waiting vehicles. The businessman stumbles backward, his expensive shoes kicking up dust as he struggles to process what has just happened. For the first time, he sees himself clearly, not as a figure of importance, but as someone whose actions have stripped him bare. The crowd watches silently, their collective gaze heavy with judgment and reflection. The stage is set for justice, though not of the kind that seeks revenge, but of the kind that restores balance. The camera lingers on the businessman's face, his features a portrait of raw vulnerability. Beads of sweat form on his forehead as the gravity of his actions crashes over him like a tidal wave. His earlier bravado has evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of shame and fear. He stammers, I didn't know. Please, forgive me." But his words fall into the void, unanswered. The protagonist, now flanked by his security detail, pauses briefly before turning to face him one last time. There is no malice in the president's expression, only a quiet authority that commands respect without demanding it. He studies the man for a moment, as if peering into the depths of his soul. Then, with a voice steady and calm, he says, "Respect is not given because of titles or wealth. It is earned through how we treat others, regardless of who they appear to be." The simplicity of his words strikes harder than any rebuke ever could. The businessman lowers his head, unable to meet the president's gaze. The crowd watches silently, their collective breath held as the scene unfolds. Some nod in quiet approval, while others exchange glances filled with a mix of awe and discomfort. They see themselves reflected in the businessman's downfall, a reminder that arrogance blinds, but humility illuminates. The narrator's voice returns, weaving the moment into a broader tapestry of meaning. In every act of disrespect lies an opportunity for reflection. For those willing to see, such moments reveal the cracks in our own character and offer a chance to rebuild with greater integrity. As the convoy begins to move, the businessman remains rooted to the spot, his expensive suit now feeling more like chains than armor. Around him, life slowly resumes its rhythm, yet nothing feels quite the same. The air carries a newfound weight, a shared understanding that dignity is not something to be taken lightly. And as the dust settles behind the departing vehicles, the crowd disperses, each person carrying with them the echoes of what they have witnessed. The convoy disappears into the horizon, leaving behind a marketplace that feels both smaller and larger than before. The businessman stands alone, his expensive facade crumbling under the weight of his own actions. He drops to his knees, overwhelmed by the magnitude of his mistake. His hands clutch at the dirt beneath him, a symbolic gesture of humility forced upon him by his own arrogance. Yet no one approaches to console him. The crowd has already turned away, their silence speaking louder than any words ever could. Inside the vehicle, the protagonist sits quietly, gazing out the window at the world. He serves. There is no trace of vindictiveness in his demeanor, only a quiet resolve to lead with grace and purpose. He turns to one of his aides and says softly, "Let this be a lesson not for him alone, but for all who confuse authority with superiority." The aide nods solemnly, understanding the deeper message embedded in those words. Back at the marketplace, whispers ripple through the crowd. Some express sympathy for the businessman, while others feel little pity for someone who brought shame upon himself. A young girl tugs at her mother's sleeve, asking, "Why did he treat that man so badly?" Her mother hesitates, then replies, "Because he forgot something very important. We are all equal, no matter what we wear or how much money we have." The child nods thoughtfully, as if absorbing a truth far greater than her years. The narrator reflects on the moment, their voice imbued with wisdom and compassion. Justice does not always roar like thunder. Sometimes it whispers like the wind, carrying lessons meant to awaken rather than destroy. In choosing dignity over vengeance, the president reminded us all of what true power looks like, the ability to rise above pettiness and inspire greatness in others. The camera pans upward, capturing the vast African sky stretching endlessly above, a metaphor for the boundless potential of humanity when guided by respect and unity. The scene shifts from the bustling marketplace to quieter corners of Burkina Faso, where the events of the day begin to ripple outward. News spreads quickly, through whispered conversations in rural villages, heated debates in urban cafes, and impassioned discussions on social media platforms. The story of the businessman's humiliation and the president's dignified response becomes more than just an incident. It transforms into a symbol of resilience and moral clarity. In a small classroom, a teacher recounts the event to her students, using it as a lesson in humility and respect. She writes 2 words on the chalkboard: equality and dignity. Turning to her class, she asks, "What do these words mean to you?" Hands shoot up eagerly, each child offering their interpretation. One boy says, "It means treating everyone the same, no matter who they are." A girl adds, "It means standing tall even when others try to make you small." The teacher smiles, proud of their insights, knowing that seeds planted today will grow into trees of change tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the corridors of power, government officials discuss the incident with a mix of admiration and unease. Some see it as a call to action, a reminder that leadership must always prioritize service over self-interest. Others feel exposed, recognizing fragments of their own arrogance in the businessman's downfall. A senior minister reflects aloud, "If we cannot respect those without titles, how can we claim to serve them?" His words hang heavy in the air, challenging those around him to confront their own biases. The narrator steps in, their tone reverent, yet hopeful. Moments like these have a way of transcending time and space. They become stories told around fires, lessons passed down through generations, and sparks that ignite movements for justice. What happened in that marketplace was not just about one man's error. It was a mirror held up to society, reflecting both its flaws and its potential for transformation. The camera captures faces young and old, rich and poor, united by the shared understanding that true progress begins with respect. Night falls over Burkina Faso, casting a serene blanket of stars across the sky. Inside the presidential office, the protagonist sits alone at his desk, illuminated only by the soft glow of a lamp. Papers and reports lie scattered before him, but his mind is elsewhere, reflecting on the day's events and their deeper implications. He leans back in his chair, gazing out the window at the vast expanse of his nation. His expression is neither triumphant nor weary. It is contemplative, as if he carries the weight of his people's hopes and struggles with quiet determination. The camera zooms in on his face, capturing the lines etched by years of service and sacrifice. There is no grandstanding here, no desire for personal glory, only an unwavering commitment to lead with integrity. The narrator speaks, their voice imbued with reverence. True leaders are not defined by the titles they hold or the power they wield. They are remembered for how they make others feel, valued, respected, and seen. In choosing silence over retribution, Ibrahim Traoré demonstrated that strength lies not in domination, but in restraint. A montage follows, showcasing moments of ordinary citizens going about their lives. A farmer tending to his crops under the blazing sun, a teacher guiding her students through arithmetic problems, a mother braiding her daughter's hair while sharing stories of resilience. Each frame underscores the interconnectedness of humanity, the idea that leadership exists not to rule over people, but to uplift them. These scenes serve as a testament to the president's vision, a nation where every individual is empowered to thrive without fear of oppression or disrespect. As the montage fades, the camera returns to the protagonist, now standing on a balcony, overlooking the city. Below him, the lights of Ouagadougou twinkle like constellations against the dark horizon. He takes a deep breath, as if drawing strength from the land itself, then whispers to himself, "This is your home, Ibrahim. Protect it not with force, but with love." The narrator concludes this segment with a poignant observation. Great leaders leave behind legacies written not in ink, but in the hearts of those they serve. And sometimes the most powerful acts are those performed in silence, unseen by the world, yet felt by all who witness their impact. The screen transitions to a breathtaking sunrise over the African savanna, golden rays piercing through the mist as if heralding a new dawn. The narrator's voice returns, steady and profound. Every ending carries within it the seed of a beginning. What happened in that marketplace was not just an isolated moment. It was a call to action, a reminder of the values that bind us together as human beings. The camera pans across landscapes rich with culture and history, capturing the vibrancy of markets, the solemnity of ancestral shrines, and the laughter of children playing freely under open skies. The protagonist appears once more, this time addressing a gathering of young leaders from across the continent. His words are simple yet powerful. Africa does not rise because of wealth or weapons. It rises because of its people. When we treat each other with dignity, when we honor the humanity in everyone, no matter their station, we build a future greater than any empire that came before. The audience listens intently, inspired by his vision of unity and renewal. One young woman wipes away tears, moved not just by his message, but by the sincerity with which it is delivered. As the speech concludes, the scene shifts to a montage of diverse faces, young and old, rural and urban, each embodying the spirit of rebirth and resilience. Farmers plow fields, artisans craft intricate designs, activists march for justice, and families gather around meals, sharing stories of hope and perseverance. Over these images, the narrator delivers the closing reflection. Respect is the foundation upon which nations are rebuilt. Equality is the bridge that connects hearts divided by prejudice, and dignity is the light that guides us out of darkness. Let us remember that Africa's greatest strength has always been its people, their courage, their creativity, and their unyielding belief in a better tomorrow. The final shot lingers on the protagonist, standing atop a hill overlooking his homeland. The wind stirs gently around him, carrying whispers of generations past and dreams yet to come. He smiles faintly, his eyes filled with quiet resolve. As the screen fades to black, the narrator leaves the audience with one last thought. The world will try to silence those who speak truth to power, but even in silence, the truth finds ways to echo, for Africa, for humanity, for every soul. Yearning to be free, let us choose respect, let us choose equality and